Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're still on the POLITY, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. And now we would be talking about one of the states in Nigeria. Today we'll be talking about 3 different states, but let's start with Ondo State. It's no longer news that there's been lots of back and forth between the Ondo State Deputy Governor, the Governor, and of course the, let's say, the legislative part of the government, where the Governor has been missing in action, and some persons have termed it that Ondo State is currently on autopilot, given that the Governor is out of state, the Deputy Governor was out of state, and of course legislative were not ready to, of course, hand over power to the Deputy Governor as stated by the Constitution as amended. But then as of yesterday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu interfered in this said matter and has asked the legislative, that's the speakers, to of course hand over all matters pertaining to the state to the Deputy Governor. But then the question is, should it have gotten to the point where the president had to preside in all of these matters to say the Deputy Governor should be the person acting in retrospect before the governor comes on board? But then all of this and more is what we'll be discussing today with none other than Prince Ademola Adekanbi, National Auditor of Action Alliance Party. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Very well.
It's good to have you in the studio with us.
Thanks for
having me. Let's get into Ondo State matters proper. What do you think about the news of the Ondo State Governor's signature being forged? Let's start with that.
Well, it's a very embarrassing situation we have found ourselves in Ondo State. Okay. Prior to all these issues, when the governor was sick originally and he traveled out of the country to on a medical vacation, everything seemed to be going well because he transmitted power at that time. But when some evil intentions came up, you know, and the governor had to rush back, and then we started seeing some funny things happening. You know, he had to stay back in Ibadan instead of resuming in Akure, the state capital, and everyone was taken, you know, kind of surprised, you know, but. The whole thing now degenerated at a point when the governor, having come back, did not transmit power again. You know, he kind of took back the power, and he was not available to do, you know, to carry out his duties in Akure. And of course, we started seeing that all sorts of things were happening. We started hearing all sorts of funny things, signatures being forged on government documents, you know, files and all that. So it's really embarrassing for us as indigenes of Ondo State, and it has really taken us some steps back. You know, not much has been achieved during that period.
Okay, all right. I like the fact that you've mentioned that since he came to the state, is not since he came back to the country, he's not been to the state. Rumor has it that he's in Ibadan, because I remember I watched one of the interviews of one of the said SSA to the governor, stating categorically that he is in Ibadan right now. So is it possible that a sitting governor is ruling from Ibadan and you are not ruling Oyo State? Ibadan is in Oyo State, correct?
Yes.
So how does a sitting governor of Ondo State stay in Ibadan and then govern? That's one question. 2, the matter or the issue of power being transmitted to the Deputy Governor. In all of this, we know that there's a constitutional provision that says you would, of course, transfer power from the governor to the Deputy Governor per se if the governor is not on seat. So why should there be issues with the legislative in all of these matters?
Well, your first question was that, I mean, it has to do with the governor, you know, having to carry out his duties from another state. You know, this is quite inappropriate, if I must use that word, because yeah, I mean, Oyo State is still within Nigeria, but at the same time, people would like to see their governor. There are a lot of functions that the governor is supposed to attend in person, give directives on how things should be done and all that. So the fact that the governor is not physically present, is not available, you know, to attend to things the way it's supposed to be, is disturbing to the people. is disturbing to even the government officials, the members on of the executive council. Everybody will be in disarray. But if the governor is on ground, or he has transmitted power to the deputy governor, everything there will be orderliness, you know, and everything. And about your second question, I think you were asking whether it was appropriate to, what was that, your second question?
For them to meddle the legislature, since the power has been transmitted.
Yes, you know, it was not right for the legislature to seem to have taken power unto themselves, because there is a clear provision in the Constitution that says that when the governor is not available to do his work, well, maybe by reason of ill health or whatever, he is supposed to transmit power directly to the deputy governor, so that the deputy governor can carry out, you know, his duties as specified in the Constitution. You know, and of course, if we remember the case of President Yaradua, when he was ill, this was how the cabals also gathered together at that time. Also, they were taking advantage of the situation at that time until the doctrine of necessity had to be invoked. And in this case, this is exactly what we have been clamoring for in Action Alliance. As a matter of fact, I had to come back to Abuja because of this interview. Because yesterday in Akure, the Action Alliance in Ondo State had to, you know, do a press release. We held an emergency, you know, Congress, kind of in Ondo State, where our position also as an opposition party in the state had to be made known that it is appropriate at this time, because people have been talking about it, but it is just appropriate at this time that power should be transmitted to the deputy governor so that he can act. In
all of this, sorry to barge in, do you think this is just a case of loyalists being loyal to the governor, saying, oh, because at first it was misappropriation of funds, they said Maeda Tiwa, they badged him with, from misappropriation of funds to forgery, signature forgery. So now in all of this, because I'd love to relate this with River State and say most of the time, most governors don't want their deputy governors to succeed them in all of this. But then looking at it together, don't you think this issue is a clear case of the legislatures are just loyal to the governor, and they probably feel like, oh, the way the deputy governor would run it is different from the way the governor has been running things? Or what exactly is wrong in all of this case?
Well, as far as I am concerned, my own position is that I think the people, the legislators, they are just after their own interest, personal interest. And all these things, if you take a look at it critically, it's all about the next gubernatorial election in Ondo State that is going to come up, you know, maybe, next year. And so because of that, people are trying to reposition themselves. And, you know, that's where I used the word cabal at that time. These people have constituted themselves into a cabal, you know. So, and it's anti-people. Okay, so there's no reason why the deputy governor cannot have free, access to contesting the election, just like any other person. So why should they put some bottlenecks, you know, or some, problems on his way to prevent him from contesting the election? That is just what the whole thing is all about. So all this accusation of Aida Tiwa did this, Aida Tiwa did that, none of them is sustainable. I mean, they can be substantiated. They've not come out with proofs to say this is what and what the governor has done. I mean, the deputy governor has done. The governor himself is a well-loved person in the state. Everybody loves the governor. He's a performing person. When he was okay, he was doing very well. And Aida Tiwa cooperated with him. And, Aida Tiwa was also very loyal to him. As a matter of fact, Aida Tiwa was regarded as his son. Okay? So, and up till now, that loyalty is still there. But it's just that some other people just try to cause, disaffection between the governor and the deputy governor, just because of their own personal interests. So the deputy governor is also well loved by the people of Ondo State, because both of them, they were a very good combination.
Okay. On a final note, I would ask two questions. Right. First, the president has come out to say they should allow Aida to become the acting governor of the state. Yes. But then, let's take it back to during Yar'Adua's regime, right, where, of course, the sitting governor right now was, I think, the chairman of NBE then, and he was part of those that clamored for them to remove Yar'Adua since he couldn't sit down in the office. But don't you think that same thing should be applied in Ondo State? I mean, the sitting governor has been absent for 6 months. That's a lot. That's one question. The second question, how did it get to the point where the president has to preside over matters of the state? I mean, the state should be able to handle its own matters, given even the fact that we have too many issues going on right now in Nigeria. So how did we get to the point where the president is the one presiding over the state, and then they are trying to curb it into, oh, it's a party matter, given that we have constitutional rights that have been provided for all of these things?
Okay, let me take your second question first, because this is part of what we're talking about in Nigeria, that things seem to have gone, comatose. Everything is just upside down, so to speak, because the constitution is very clear about how governance and everything should be. And it's in Nigeria we are running a federal system of government. And what is a federal system of government? It's a system of government where the federal government on its own has its own powers and duties and everything, and the states are also supposed to be independent on their own to the extent of what rights and privileges and constitutional powers that are given to them. So the federal and the state are supposed to be, they are supposed to be independent of one another. But what do we have? You have a situation where, because the constitution is not being properly, implemented, you see the federal government most times will be giving directives and interfering in affairs of the state. It is very, very wrong. It is not what is contained in the constitution. Now, for the president now to be the one to be calling the state to order or telling them what to do about what is already specified in the constitution, on its own, it's a very sad thing that it is happening in this country. And that is one of the reasons why people have been clamoring that there should be, a revisit on the constitution itself. And I don't really think that the constitution itself is the problem. It is the implementation, most of the time, that the way the people interpret and implement the constitution is a major problem. So seeing that the president now has to call the operator, I mean all the people that is in charge in Ondo State, summon them to. This is the second time that is happening. Summoning them to Abuja to come and tell them what they should do. That is very wrong, because all they are supposed to do, everything is already itemized in the constitution. The legislature knows its rights. The executive, they know their rights. The judiciary's rights is already, everything is specified in the constitution. So if everybody respects the constitution and follow through what is already specified in the constitution, we wouldn't have all these problems. But people would rather want to turn things around for their own, just to benefit themselves, for their own personal interests. That is just what is happening.
Okay, all right. The second question you've answered, the first question you've answered. I'd like you to leave a note for the people of Ondo State and all of these Ula Balu. I like to use that word, or let's say back and forth going on right now in Ondo State, and in preparation for 2024 elections. What would you like to tell them? Well,
I like to tell the people of Ondo State that it's a good thing that the president has, waded into this logjam that we seem to have in Ondo State, and has given a directive that Deputy Governor Ayedatiwa should be, the power should be transmitted to him. I want to believe, and I hope that this will be properly done, and that the power is going to have this time is going to be full-fledged executive powers, so that we'll be able to carry out the duties of governance in the state. Because Ondo State has suffered a lot as a result of all this hula baloo that we have, that has been happening. It is the people of the state that is worse off for it. So now that we have this directive now, I believe that if the proper things are done, then Ondo State should be able to move forward, and a lot of lost grounds will be gained back.
But do you even think, after the president has said this, that legislature, the House of Assembly will still support Ayedatiwa?
Well, that is what is expected, because whoever is occupying the executive seat is the person that is having the powers to carry out whatever the executive is supposed to do. So since there is division of power within the, as specified by the Constitution, the legislature has no choice than to just cooperate and do what they are supposed to do. If they do anything short of that, then it's still going to, that means we are still back to square one. And it is the people of the state that is going to suffer for it. So at the end of the day, so it is more, I will advise that the legislature should just give peace a chance, so that Ondo State can move forward. Thank you very much. Thank
you very much, Prince Ademola, Adekanbi, National Auditor of Action Alliance Party. This will wrap it up for Ondo State. After the break, we'll be joined by someone from, of course, Rivers State to analyze most of the recent happenings in Rivers, and then we move to Kogi State. Stay tuned.